Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to teach you about regular expressions and ways to validate user input with the help of regular expressions. So I received many comments and questions where you tell me that you were asking the user to enter a number, for example, but he enters a letter or a string and then you get an error, or you were asking the user to enter email address, but he enters phone number, so your program crashes. So in this video, I decided to teach you how to solve those type of problems with the help of regular expressions, also known as Regex. So in this video, I will use C++ Builder because I want to build this little form that has email and password input fields. And as you already know, C++ Builder is the best choice to build user interface applications with C++. So in this video, I will teach you how to validate email and password because those two are a little bit more complex, and then I will leave to you to validate first name, last name, age, and things like that if you want to add additional fields to this form here. So let's see how this form behaves. So if I enter here, for example, Saldina at gmail.com, like this, and I click validate, as you can see, email is not valid because the format should be first name dot last name at something.com. So if I say saldina.nurak and then I click validate, now email is valid. And then for password, let's say that password is saldina123, and if I click validate, again it says that password is not valid, and the rule is that it should contain at least one lowercase letter, one capital letter, one number, and one special sign. So here we are missing capital letter, so let's change that. And then also a special sign, so let's add that as well. Okay, so if I click on validate now, as you can see, now our password is valid. So this is the program that we will build in this video, and I will show you how to validate these inputs from our user with the help of regular expressions. And before we start building this application, for all my viewers who were asking about databases or SQL course, I have a great database to recommend. It is called Interbase, and it is a lightweight SQL database that doesn't take much space in memory or your disk. And then it is also fast and easy to install, and it is multi-platform, so it can run on Windows and Linux and Mac, and also on iOS and Android. And then probably my favorite characteristic is that it is admin free. So the company that I'm currently working for, we are processing a lot of transactions, probably more than 10,000 transactions in a second. So with Interbase, it can run literally for years without you needing to do backup and restore. And I also read that the rover that is currently exploring Mars, it is actually running a copy of Interbase on Mars. So that is because it was too far to send DB admin. And also because it is very safe and resilient and effective. So I will put a link in the description so that you can download it and try it out. And then also, please let me know if I should make an SQL course. I don't know, maybe I should do that. Let me know in the comments. So let's return to regular expressions. I showed you the application that we are going to build, and here I created a new multi-device application with C++ Builder. It is completely empty. So the first step that I want to do is I want to build user interface for our app. And if you're not familiar with building user interface with C++ Builder, please make sure to watch this video first and then you can come back. So let's do email first. So I will need one edit, one label, and then a button. So here I will find edit and then drag and drop it. Okay, and then let's do label, the label. So this is going to be our is valid label, and then button. So this is going to be validate button. Okay, and let's change the name of these controls. So this edit will be called, let's call it user input. So here I will say user input, like this. And then this label, it will be called is valid label. So I will say is valid label. And then this button will be called validate button. Okay, so that is all that we will need for now. And now I will teach you about regular expressions. So the goal of this video is not to teach you everything about regular expressions, nor any video on YouTube can do that because it is a very broad topic. But the good news is that you don't need to know everything in order to be able to use them successfully. And I personally don't know everything, and I've been using regular expressions for years without any problems. So the goal of this video is to teach you that, first of all, they exist, because as a developer, you should be familiar with regular expressions. And then second reason is I want to prepare you for real life code. I want to prepare you for a situation where you are reading real code and then you come across this regular expression code. So you should have at least an idea of what it is doing. And then when you find yourself in a situation where you need to solve your problem with regular expressions, in most cases you are going to Google and find something that is similar and then modify it a little bit in order to fit your problem. And in order to be able to do that, you should watch this entire video. So what is regex? What is regular expression? The most understandable way to explain it is that a regex is a rule that you can use in order to check if a certain text matches that rule. So you already saw at the beginning of the video when I showed you how we validated email and password, and the process of that goes like this. You first write a regular expression rule, and then you use that rule in order to check if the email that your user has entered matches that rule, which means if it is valid or not. So that is one purpose of regular expressions. And then second purpose is you can use regular expressions in order to search for specific characters or words or part of a word or even a sentence in a text. And in this video, we are going to see both of these uses of regular expressions, and they are called regex match and regex search. So here we have a site called Regex Storm, which will help us to learn about regular expressions. I will put a link in the description. So basically here you can enter a regular expression rule and then you can test different inputs to see if they match the rule. So let's say, for example, that we want lowercase letters. So I would write a rule like this. I would say A to Z lowercase, and then let's test this input string. So if I say Saldina, all lowercase, we get 7 matches. Okay, and then if I change this to uppercase letter, now we have 6 matches. Okay, so if I wanted to change this rule to accept also lowercase and uppercase letters, I would say A to Z lowercase and then also A to Z uppercase. And as you can see, now we again have 7 matches. Okay, so how can we say, for example, that we want numbers? Well, you can probably guess correctly. We would say that we want 0 to 9. Like this, but we get 0 matches because inside this input string we don't have any numbers. So if I say, for example, Saldina 1, 2, 3, now we are going to get 3 matches. Okay, so what else can I show you? Let's say, for example, that we want exactly 3 numbers. So I would write a rule like this. I would say 0 to 9 exactly 3 times. And inside this input string we have 1 match, and that is this part here. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then if I delete one number, now we have 0 matches because here I'm saying that I want exactly 3 numbers. And then what else you can do is you can say that you want a minimum of 1 number and then a maximum of 3 numbers. And then as you can see here, this is matched. So now we have 1 match because here we have 2 numbers. So these are the basics. Let's see what else we can do. Let's say that I want to find a part of this input where we have a number that appears minimum 1 time, maximum 3 times, and then I also want it to end with a specific letter. Let's say, for example, letter M. Okay, and now we get 0 matches because there is no such thing inside this input part here. But if I add letter M here, as you can see, now we get a match for this part of our input. So now we have a number that appears minimum 1 time, maximum 3 times. Here we have 2, so that's a match. And then it also ends with letter M, as we said here. Okay, and then let's also say that we want this to start with letter A, like this, with capital letter A. And then again, here we don't have a match for that. But if I say here, for example, A, as you can see, now we do have a match, and that is, okay, and that is this part here. another important thing that you should know are special characters in regular expressions. Now, there are many special characters, and here we are going to see 3, and then we are going to see a few more by the end of the video. So the 3 that I want to teach you about are question mark, plus sign, and then asterisk symbol, that little star symbol. So if you ever worked with wildcards, these special symbols in regex are very similar to wildcards. And if you haven't, doesn't matter, because I'm going to explain them anyway. So let's see how they work. The first one that I will explain is question mark. So let's delete this interval here. So now it says that we are looking for part of the input that starts with letter A, and then it has a number, and then it has letter M. We don't have that interval anymore. But if I add a question mark here, this rule here means that now we are looking for part of this input which starts with letter A, ends with letter M, and then it has a number here which can appear 1 time or 0 times. So this question mark means that this part here can appear once or not at all. Okay, so here we have no matches because here we have letter A, and then we have 2 numbers, and then letter M. So if I delete this number 2, now we should get 1 match. Okay, and then if I delete this 1 as well, we have a match because, as I said, this question mark means once or 0 times. So that is the meaning of question mark. Let's see the second special symbol. The second special symbol is plus sign. Okay, and plus sign means that this part here that comes before it needs to appear at least once, but it can also appear multiple times. And as you can see here, we don't have any matches inside our input. Okay, but if I add here 1, for example, now we do have a match. And then if I say 1, 2, 3, again, we have a match because plus sign once more means that this part that comes before it needs to appear at least once, but it can also appear multiple times. And then the third special character that I want to show you is asterisk symbol, like this. And asterisk symbol means that this part that comes before it can appear multiple times, it can appear once, but it doesn't have to appear at all. So this here is valid, and then this is valid, and then this is valid as well. So multiple times, once, or 0 times. So those are 3 special characters that I wanted to show you. Again, we have a question mark, which means once or not at all, and then plus sign, which means at least once, but it can also appear multiple times. And then we have this asterisk symbol, which means that it can appear multiple times, once, or not at all. So I believe those are all basics that you need to know in order to be able to write a regex rule for email address and many more things, because email address is pretty hard when compared to some other things. So here I have an email address in the format of firstname.lastname@gmail.com, and this should be valid format of a email address. So firstname.lastname@something.com. So how can we write a rule that will say that this format is valid, this email address is valid, and then other formats are invalid? Well, let's take care first of the first name part. So here we have multiple lower characters. So how would we write a rule for that? Well, you would say that you want lower character that appears, let's say, at least once, but it can also appear multiple times. Okay, so with this we took care of the first name part. So now let's see how we are going to cover this dot part. Now, if I say just dot like this, it is not going to work as expected because dot is also a special character in regular expressions, and dot means literally any character. So if you want to say dot literal, like specifically dot character, you need to put backslash in front of it, like this. Okay, so now we have covered this part. And then for family name, I will also say that I want lowercase letters that can appear at least once or multiple times. Okay, and then let's take care of this at gmail.com. So I will say at gmail.com, And again, here in front of this dot, I want to put backslash. Okay, so as you can see, now we have one match found. Okay, now one problem that I see with this is that now only Gmail addresses will work. So if I say here, for example, hotmail.com, we get 0 matches. So what I should do here instead of at gmail.com is I would say instead of this Gmail, I also want a lowercase letter to appear at least once or multiple times. Okay, so now Hotmail is valid, and then Windows Live is valid, and then Gmail as well is valid. Now let's see what is going to happen if I say, for example, that here we will have a capital letter A. We will get 0 matches. Okay, because here we have allowed only lowercase letters. So let's allow capital letters as well, both here and also here. So I will say A to Z lowercase and then A to Z uppercase as well. And then let's copy this here and then here as well. And as you can see, now we get one match found. And then also if I say K capital, again, we have a match. And then another thing that I want to do is I also want to say that, let's say saldina.nurak95@gmail.com should also be valid. Or if I decide to enter here, saldina95.nurak@gmail.com, that should also be valid. So I want to add numbers here and here and here as well. So I will say A to Z and then A to Z capital and then 0 to 9. And then let's copy this part here, paste it here and then here as well. So why am I doing this? Why am I allowing numbers in first name and second name? Well, because of the name that Elon Musk decided to give to his son, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but I believe that in the future we will see more people deciding to give to their babies names that have numbers or even special characters. Elon Musk started that trend, and a fun fact is that his boy's name is going to break every single validation form for first name, because as far as I know, first names traditionally contained only lowercase and uppercase letters. So now they have 18 years until he's of age in order to fix their regex rules before he's able to register anywhere and try to enter his first name. So yeah, that's a fun fact, and that's the reason why I'm allowing also numbers as part of first name and second name, and then also as part of this domain. Why not? And since we already did this, let me also show you a shorter way to write this part. So there is a shortcut for this, and that is \W. And that means all uppercase, lowercase, and numbers, and also underscore, I believe. So we can use this \W instead of this part here, and then also let's paste it here, like this. So this is regex that we will use in order to validate email, and when you see a code like this, it looks pretty bizarre, but if you go step by step, then it really makes sense. So if you need to rewatch the previous part of the video, please do that now, because now I'm going to move to C++ code and see how we can use this regex in order to validate user's email address. So let's copy this pattern and move to our RAD Studio. So the whole process of validation is going to happen when the user clicks on this validate button. So let's create that event handler. I will double click on it. And here we have a function where we will write our validation code. So let's create std string, a variable called regex pattern. So I'll call it regex pattern, like this. And here I will paste the pattern that we wrote. Okay, now one important thing that you may or may not know about C++ is that this backslash is a special character in C++. So if you don't want to use it as a special character, but you want to use it as character literal, so backslash itself, which we do want in this situation, then you need to add another backslash in front of it. So I will add another backslash here, and then here, and here, and then this last place, like this. Okay, so the second step is to create regex rule. So I will say std regex, and I will call this variable regex rule, like this. And here I will pass this regex pattern, and with this we created a regex rule. And also, in order to be able to use this regex and string, you need to say here include string and also include regex, like this. Okay, so the next step is to take the text from this input field called user input. I believe that's the name that we gave it. Where is it? Okay, you can check it here. It says user input. That is the name of this control. So I'll go back to my CPP file, and here I will say ANSI string, and let's call it email text. So I will say user input. I want to take text from a control that is called user input, and that text is of ANSI string type. Now, in order to be able to validate it, we need to convert it into C string. So I will say std string, and I will call it email string. Okay, and I will use this email text and convert it to C string format, like this. And then one more thing that remains is to check if this email string matches with this regex rule. So I will say regex match. So please check if this email string matches with this regex rule, like this. And I want to assign the result of this here into a variable that is going to be of type bool, and I will call it is valid. Okay, so I will use this variable in order to set the value for this is valid label. So let's go back to CPP file. Okay, and here I will say if is valid, what I want to do is I want to say is valid label, its text property will be equal to it is valid or email is valid, like this. Okay, and then else, so if it is not valid, then I want to set a different message. So I will say that email is not valid, like this. So let's test this program now. Let's run it. So if I try saldinanurak@gmail.com and I click on validate, we will get this message which says that email is not valid because we are missing a dot separator between first name and last name. Okay, so if I click on validate now it says that email is valid, and this should also be valid. saldina95.nurak@gmail.com should also be valid. Okay, and then we can put also capital letters, that should also be valid. But if we are missing this dot symbol, or if we are missing, for example, at here, then email is not going to be valid. So that is how you validate email. Now let me show you how you can validate password. So let's comment this email validation part, because I want to reuse the same controls that I used for email, because this video is getting too long. So I don't want to make it any longer than it needs to be. And these controls already have generic names. So this edit is called, it is called user input, not email user input. And then this is also is valid label. But if you want to add new controls, then you should give them specific names. So password user input, and then password valid label, and so on. But I will use these existing ones. So let's go back to CPP file. Okay, and here I will write regex for password. Now the rule for password is that it needs to contain at least one lowercase letter, one uppercase letter, and then one special character and one number. So that is the regex rule that we will write. So I will divide this into 4 rules so that it is easier to understand. And let's start with lowercase letters. So let's say std string, and let's say lowercase. Okay, so here will be the rule for at least one lowercase letter. Now let's put here question mark and then equal to. Now, this combination here means that whatever I put after, it needs to be fulfilled somewhere in the password. So I don't care about the exact order. I just need for this, which is lowercase letter, to appear somewhere in the password. Okay, and then another thing that I want to add is I want to say that before this lowercase letter, we can have another character, and that can be any character. And if you remember when we talked about dot symbol, we said that it is a special character in regular expressions, and the purpose of dot is to say any character. So in front of a lowercase letter can appear any character, and that character can appear one time, it can appear multiple times, or it doesn't have to appear at all. And that is when our password starts with lowercase letter. So which one of those three special wildcard symbols represents 0, 1, or multiple times? Well, that is the star symbol, right? So here is the lowercase part of our password, which says the following. I need whatever comes after this to appear somewhere in my password. I don't care about the exact position. I just need for this part here to be fulfilled somewhere in the password. And this part here says that we need to have at least one lowercase letter, and then in front of that lowercase letter we can have any character, and that character can appear one time, it can appear multiple times, or it doesn't have to appear at all. And that is the situation where our password starts with lowercase letter. So that is what this rule here says. So let's do the same for uppercase letters, numbers, and special characters. So I will just copy this rule and then paste it. And here I will say uppercase, okay, and then I will change it to say uppercase letters, like this, and then let's do numbers, and here I will adjust it to say 0 to 9, like this, and then also let's cover special characters, like this, and here I will manually put special characters that can appear. So I will say, for example, dollar symbol, underscore, and @ symbol. You can add more if you want. So that is a rule for lowercase letters, uppercase, numbers, and special characters. And let's add one extra rule, which will say that we need to have at least 6 characters inside our password. We can have minimum of 6, and then we are not going to define maximum. So I will say std string, and let's call this rule min characters, like this, and I will say that this rule needs to be fulfilled somewhere in our password, and that is that any symbol needs to appear at least 6 times. That is the minimum, and then we are not going to define maximum. Okay, so this is how you use the interval that I showed you at the beginning of the video. So these are all individual rules that we need to fulfill for a password to be valid. So now let's combine all of these rules into one. So I will say std string, and let's call it full pattern, like this, and I will say lowercase plus uppercase, and then I will also say plus numbers plus special characters, and also plus minimum number of characters. Okay, let's format this a little bit like this. Okay, so this is going to be full rule, and since we are combining multiple rules, what I need to do is I need to put them into parentheses. So all of these individual rules need to be in parentheses like this. So I will put parentheses here and then also here. Let me do this very quickly and then I will be back. Okay, so I put these individual rules, all 5 of them, into parentheses because here we are combining them. And then the next step is this step that we did here. So to create a regex rule like this, and to this regex rule I will pass this full pattern like this, okay? And then the next step is we will take the password that our user has entered. So I will copy this part here. So I will take the password text. Let's just change the name of the variable, and then the name of our input stayed the same. So I will take from user's input, I will take text of that input and I will store it into password text variable. And then here I will need to convert it into C string format in order to be able to validate it. So I will create a variable of type string. I will call it password string, like this, and I will convert this password text into C string format. Okay, and then I will again copy this part that we used for email, paste it here. And then one important difference is that for validating password, we are not going to use regex match, but we are going to use regex search, because there is no exact pattern that a password should match, but rather there are 5 individual rules that every password should fulfill. And those are that it contains at least 1 lowercase, 1 uppercase, and then 1 number, special character, and then that minimum number of characters is 6. So here, as I said, I will not use regex match, but I will use regex search. Okay, and I will say that I want to search for this password string inside our regex rule object that contains our full pattern. Okay, so let's change also this validation message to say that password is valid. And then here, in case that it is not valid, I will say password is not valid. So let's start our program and test the code that we have written. Okay. So here I will, let me just move it here so that you can see code as well. So here I will try password Saldina123, and if I click validate, it says that password is not valid. So we are missing capital letter, we are also missing a special symbol, and if I click on validate now it says that password is valid. And also, if you try to enter less than 6 characters, password should not be valid. So let's try S and then special symbol and then lowercase letter, and let's enter a number. So here we have 4 characters, so we have fulfilled 4 of the 5 rules. So if I click on validate, now it says again that password is not valid, because this last part says that password should contain at least 6 characters. So if I add 2, 3, now the password should be valid. Okay. So that will be all for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up, because that is really important for the YouTube algorithm. And then also share it with someone who needs to see this video and learn about regular expressions and ways to validate user input with regular expressions. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in some other video. Bye!